There's a stage in the twin flame journey that no one truly warns you about. It's the moment when the feminine energy, after months or even years of holding the weight of the connection alone, longing for acknowledgement and chasing signs of mutual effort, finally becomes weary. But this isn't simple exhaustion that fades after rest. It's a deep soul-level fatigue that comes from realizing you've been betraying your own essence by begging for love from someone who should recognize your worth effortlessly. This is the moment when the divine feminine awakens to her true power. Authentic feminine energy doesn't chase, beg, or shrink to fit into limited spaces others create. True feminine strength chooses, attracts, allows, or denies, but never pleads. And when this energy finally stops running after validation and instead roots itself in sovereignty and inner wholeness, everything begins to transform, not only within the relationship, but within the entire energetic balance of the universe. The feminine represents the original creative force, the one shaping the magnetic flow of reality. Once she steps into her rightful place, the masculine is naturally compelled to respond. If you're watching this video, you've reached a critical turning point in your spiritual evolution. Today, I'll explain why the divine feminine's exhaustion isn't a sign of defeat. It marks the final phase, awakening. Because deciding to stop chasing is the only approach that truly works in a twin flame connection. More importantly, I'll show you how to recognize whether you're operating from a place of lack or abundance, because that distinction changes everything. And if you stay until the end, you'll uncover the secret Carl Jung discovered about the true nature of twin flames. Perhaps the purpose of your journey was never about winning someone else, but about rediscovering yourself. Jung devoted much of his work to understanding the energetic dance between the feminine and masculine, not only between individuals, but within every human psyche. Through years of clinical observation and his study of alchemy and ancient wisdom, Jung reached a conclusion that challenges everything modern society teaches about relationships. He found that the feminine represents the active, creative force, while the masculine embodies the reactive, responsive energy. This reversal of the conventional view of active and passive is essential to understanding why so many twin flame connections fail when their energies are inverted. Patriarchal conditioning has led us to believe that the masculine is the active pursuer and the feminine is the passive receiver, that men take initiative and women wait. However, Jung's discoveries revealed the opposite within the deeper energetic dynamics of the soul. According to Jungian studies on anima and animus, the feminine principle acts like a magnetic field that defines what is possible or impossible in reality. It is like the earth, choosing which seeds it will allow to grow in its soil. The earth does not chase after seeds, pleading to be fertilized. It simply provides or withholds the right conditions for life to thrive. When those conditions exist, the seeds naturally move toward the earth, surrender to it, and find within it the perfect environment for growth. In contrast, the masculine principle resembles the sun, radiating truth and light consistently, but always responding to the magnetic pull of the feminine. When the earth is receptive, the sun pours its warmth upon it fully. When the earth closes off, the sun continues shining. Yet its energy naturally flows elsewhere, to places open to receiving. Jung noted that when these principles operate in harmony, each aligned with its true energetic essence, attraction unfolds effortlessly and without resistance. But when these roles are reversed, when the feminine begins to chase like the sun, and the masculine withdraws like the earth, the relationship becomes strained, imbalanced, and often collapses into unhealthy dependency or failure. This misunderstanding is where many people lose their way. They mistake energetic polarity for physical gender, assuming that being feminine means being submissive or passive. In truth, it signifies being the chooser, the creator of possibilities. In twin flame relationships, regardless of physical gender, one soul carries predominantly feminine energy, while the other carries predominantly masculine energy. Jung identified something profound in this. When two halves of the same soul recognize each other in separate bodies, true union can only occur when both fully embrace their natural energetic roles, without resisting or attempting to reverse the balance designed by the universe. The issue lies in how modern society, shaped by misunderstood feminist ideals and a distorted patriarchal system, has reversed natural dynamics between men and women. Women have been conditioned to pursue men, adopt aggressive behaviors in relationships, and attempt to control outcomes using masculine approaches. Meanwhile, men have been encouraged to become more passive, less assertive, and hesitant in expressing romantic interest. This reversal of polarity has led to generations struggling to connect in balanced, harmonious ways. When it comes to twin flames, this imbalance becomes even more damaging. Jung's clinical research revealed that couples who sustained deep, lasting connections were those who respected and embodied their natural energetic polarity. In contrast, relationships filled with endless cycles of conflict, separation, and reunion were often marked by confused or completely reversed energies. Jung also discovered something more specific about twin flames. It's always the soul embodying feminine energy that determines whether the union will manifest, regardless of physical gender or perceived social strength. Here's the part that may sound controversial, but was clearly documented by Jung. When the feminine energy begins to chase, abandon its sense of completeness, or try to persuade the masculine through logic or emotional manipulation, the masculine instinctively withdraws. This reaction isn't rooted in cruelty or lack of affection, but in the natural response to an inverted energetic field. Something feels out of balance. However, when the feminine reclaims its sovereignty, chooses self-love as its foundation, and stops pursuing validation, a profound shift occurs. As it radiates its authentic light and inner wholeness, the masculine is instinctively drawn toward it, like a bee to nectar or a river flowing toward the ocean. This isn't manipulation or a psychological trick. It's an energetic principle as natural as breathing. Once you understand and consciously align with this law, your entire twin flame connection shifts. You stop struggling against the flow and begin to move harmoniously with it. To apply this practically, start by identifying, honestly and clearly, which polarity you embody in your specific twin flame dynamic. This polarity doesn't necessarily match your physical gender or surface-level traits. Carl Jung described ways to recognize these energetic polarities, not by observing actions, but by studying how people feel and respond to each other energetically. If you hold the feminine energy, you likely experience a deep, selective attraction, one that isn't easily triggered by just anyone. But when you meet your twin flame, the pull feels total and consuming, as though every cell of your being recognizes theirs. You might feel a powerful desire to merge, to erase boundaries, to become one. And when distance appears, it can feel like losing a vital part of yourself. Those embodying feminine energy often idealize their twin flame, seeing them as perfect or as the missing piece that brings wholeness. You might also feel strong urges to nurture, heal, or rescue them. But it's essential to understand these emotions aren't signals to act. They're warnings. They reveal confusion between your authentic energetic nature and behaviors shaped by a dysfunctional society. The true feminine doesn't chase or sacrifice herself for connection. She stands fully in her completeness, and from that space of integrity, chooses whether to allow the masculine to approach. Like a rose, she doesn't pursue the bees. She simply blooms in her natural beauty and lets them come. Conversely, if you carry the masculine energy, your attraction feels focused and unwavering, like a laser aimed at this one person. Even when they seem distant or uncertain, you may feel a deep, steady knowing that they are the one. You might naturally want to protect them, provide strength, and build stability so they can thrive. Those with masculine polarity generally find it easier to maintain individuality, even in profound connection. You can love deeply and passionately, but never lose your sense of self in the process. When the feminine withdraws or creates emotional turbulence, you may feel uncertain, but not shattered. You're able to maintain emotional balance even amidst relationship challenges. Jung noted that the true masculine energy naturally responds to the feminine's energetic state. When she stands in her power, confident, radiant, and grounded in her truth, he feels drawn to approach, support, and engage. But when she becomes needy, desperate, or tries to persuade, he instinctively retreats. Not out of rejection or cruelty, but because something feels energetically off balance. This masculine reaction isn't a flaw. It's a natural energetic principle. Just as a compass aligns with magnetic north, the masculine is drawn to the feminine energy that shines from authenticity. But when the feminine chases, it's like magnetic north keeps shifting, leaving the compass unable to find true direction. And this brings us to the core idea. Why must the feminine stop first? Because stopping doesn't mean surrendering or becoming detached. It means redirecting energy inward. It's about moving toward one's own truth instead of constantly moving toward the other. Jung believed that the final phase of the twin flame journey begins when the feminine consciously chooses herself as the primary source of love, fulfillment, and wholeness. This isn't a tactic to attract the masculine, but an act of genuine self-love and sovereignty. When the feminine stops abandoning herself to please or win over the masculine, when she no longer shapes herself to his expectations or sacrifices her truth for connection, a remarkable transformation occurs. Her energy shifts from neediness to empowerment, from emotional scarcity to inner abundance. The masculine, being naturally attuned to her energetic field, instantly senses this change. It's as if she ignites a light that wasn't there before, becoming effortlessly magnetic. Jung recorded this transformation in numerous clinical cases where individuals trapped in obsessive relationships, often labeled as twin flames, broke free by changing their relationship with themselves. One of Jung's most memorable patients spent 2 years chasing a man she believed to be her twin flame. She rearranged her life for him, silenced her voice to keep peace, and neglected her friendships and passions to maintain the connection. Yet the more she pursued him, the more distant and inconsistent he became. Jung guided her to see that her fixation on external union was blocking her internal growth and individuation. When she finally stood firmly in her own power and chose to focus on her personal growth instead of waiting for him, something extraordinary happened. Within weeks, he started reaching out, showing genuine interest, acting consistently, and demonstrating true commitment. But here's the most significant part. When he returned with sincere intentions, she realized she no longer needed him the way she once did. She still felt love and attraction, but now she had the freedom to choose whether she wanted to be with him, rather than feeling incomplete without him. This is the core paradox of the twin flame journey. You can only attract what you don't desperately depend on. You can only draw in what you're willing to accept or decline freely. When you need someone or something to feel whole, you project an energy of lack, which naturally pushes away what you desire most. But when you become whole within yourself, when you root yourself in emotional and spiritual independence, you emit a frequency of abundance that effortlessly attracts people and experiences aligned with that higher state. Carl Jung referred to this as the individuation process, the journey of becoming a complete, integrated self who no longer relies on external validation to feel whole. Jung found that individuation is essential for any conscious and healthy relationship, especially deeply spiritual ones like twin flame connections. When the feminine energy stops defining itself by the masculine's reaction and instead begins aligning with its inner truth, it naturally becomes more magnetic, not because it's using manipulation or seduction, but because it radiates authentic integrity, and authenticity is far more compelling than emotional dependency ever could be. The masculine, which once withdrew from the energy of neediness, now feels drawn to the energy of independence and choice. It senses it can approach freely without being trapped in emotional dependence. It feels safe to love without feeling pressured to fill emotional voids that don't belong to it. But here's a subtle point most people miss. When the feminine chooses herself first, it doesn't mean she becomes selfish or detached. It means she learns to love from maturity rather than codependency. Mature love grows from abundance, not from need. It gives freely instead of expecting repayment. It celebrates individuality rather than trying to shape someone to satisfy personal insecurities. This kind of love is only possible when you love yourself enough to stop expecting others to heal wounds that are yours to tend. Jung observed that when two self-aware individuals, each whole within themselves, choose to unite, they form what he called the union of opposites. It's not fusion, where identities merge, but a synthesis where two complete beings enhance each other in harmony. And that is the ultimate goal of the twin flame journey. Not to find someone who completes you, but someone already complete, with whom you consciously choose to create something greater, together, like two skilled artists combining their mastery, to craft a masterpiece neither could make alone, but only because each has already perfected their own. Alright, so how does this work in real life? How do you shift from chasing to sovereignty? How do you stop pursuing without turning cold? How do you choose yourself without shutting down your heart to love? These are practical questions Jung explored through specific inner development techniques. Step 1 involves cultivating what Jung called the self-observation function, the ability to notice your own emotional and behavioral patterns without judgment. You must become aware of when you're acting from a mindset of lack versus abundance. Lack shows up as urgency, the need for instant responses, or interpreting silence as rejection. Abundance, on the other hand, shows up as patience, the capacity to give space, and confidence that truth always finds its way to surface. Step 2 is learning to differentiate between love and attachment. Love is an expansive force, wants the best for the other person, regardless of your own outcome. Attachment is possessive. It wants the other person in a particular way to fulfill personal needs. When you truly love someone, you can wish for their happiness even if it doesn't include you. When you're attached, their happiness only feels real if it involves you. Step 3 is to build a steady practice of inner fulfillment. This means developing sources of joy and meaning that don't depend on anyone else. Art, nature, spirituality, purposeful work, deep friendships, anything that connects you to your essence and makes you feel alive on your own. Step 4 is about setting healthy, energetic boundaries. This means stopping the habit of molding yourself to please others, silencing your truth to avoid conflict, or offering emotional availability to those who don't reciprocate. Not as punishment, but as an act of self-respect. Step 5, perhaps the most essential, is nurturing a loving relationship with yourself. Learn to enjoy your own company. Comfort yourself in pain. Celebrate your achievements. And forgive your mistakes. When you become your own best friend and closest companion, you stop desperately seeking these roles in others. Jung understood this transformation takes time. It's a gradual process, months or even years, depending on how deep your codependency patterns run. Yet every small step shifts your energy in noticeable ways, affecting not only you but everyone around you. And here's where the true transformation begins. When you stand in your inner sovereignty, when you stop chasing your twin flame and start living fully, two possibilities arise. First, they may awaken to what they lost and begin pursuing you with the same intensity you once had. Second, you may realize you no longer need them to feel complete, a revelation that opens the door to deeper, more conscious relationships. Either way, you win. You either reconnect with your twin flame from a place of wholeness and maturity, or attract relationships more aligned with your evolved self. But beyond any external outcome, the real victory is always internal. You reclaim your own soul. You stop existing on the edges of someone else's story and once again become the main character of your own. You no longer beg for bits of affection. You transform into an endless source of love for yourself and the world around you. Carl Jung said the ultimate goal of human life isn't to find our other half, but to become whole within ourselves. From this perspective, twin flames don't arrive to complete us, but to awaken us to our inner wholeness. Mutual recognition acts as a mirror, allowing each soul to see its full reflection. Yet the process of becoming whole is always personal. No one else can do it for you. When the divine feminine finally grows weary and decides to stop chasing, it's not surrendering love. It's choosing real love, beginning with self-love. It's realizing she deserves to be chosen naturally by someone who already sees her worth, not someone who must be convinced of it. It's deciding to radiate through her own light, not to seek attention from a place of lack. And this single decision, even when made quietly within one's heart, has the power to shift not only your personal reality, but also the energy of everyone around you. Because once a person truly stands in their inner sovereignty, they become a living example that it's possible to love without losing yourself, to connect without abandoning yourself, and to desire without desperation. If you've listened this far and felt like these words spoke directly to your soul, perhaps reflecting a pattern you've lived for months or years, then I want to share 2 resources I've created to support this transformation. Both are inspired by Carl Jung's most profound teachings on individuation and conscious relationships. The first is 21 Days of Transformation with Carl Jung, a hands-on guide that walks you through Jung's most powerful methods for self-knowledge and individuation. Over 21 days, you'll practice specific exercises to integrate your shadow, communicate with your unconscious, and most importantly, ground yourself in emotional and spiritual independence. It's like having Jung as your personal mentor, leading you step by step toward your truest self. The second is the Soul Survival Manual. I designed this because I understand how intense the twin flame experience can be. Some days feel nearly impossible to endure. This manual offers practical, psychology-based tools to navigate the hardest moments, when the urge to repeat old patterns feels overwhelming, when control seems impossible to release, or when you doubt your strength to continue this inner work. You'll find both links in the first pinned comment below. And now I want to know who's truly stayed with me until the end of this journey. Comment "I choose myself" first to show that you're not just a viewer, but someone genuinely committed to growth and transformation. Remember, only about 5% of people on twin flame paths succeed in reversing this energetic polarity. Not because it's impossible, but because it demands the courage to unlearn what society has taught us about love and relationships. You've come this far because your soul knows you can do this. The divine feminine within you is done pleading for acknowledgement. She's ready to reclaim her natural power as a creator, a source of love, a magnetic force that attracts rather than chases. When you finally stop running after love and start standing in your own light, everything changes. Not because the outside world instantly shifts, but because you do. You become someone who doesn't need to beg for love because you are love. Someone who doesn't need to chase connections because you naturally attract them. Someone who doesn't need another to feel whole because you already are. And when you embody that truth, your own inner sovereignty, everything meant for you will find its way effortlessly. Whether that's your twin flame returning with new awareness, a more evolved soul connection, or simply the profound peace of living as the author of your own love story, starting with yourself. Thank you for having the courage to question old patterns, seek truth even when it challenges your beliefs, and most importantly, for being willing to do the inner work required for conscious, mature love. See you in the next video.